So today we're going to talk about shared values, and you're probably wondering, well, what are shared values and what does that have to do with us? I want to give you a little history on this. About 4 years ago, we got bigger and bigger and bigger, and as an organization, you know, when you get bigger and bigger, you kind of need a little bit of more organization so that everybody feels welcome, everybody knows what to expect. And so the board, I think very smartly, decided that they were going to go on a retreat to learn how to work better and interact better with each other. And so we took a day-long retreat out in Ventura, and we hired like a business trainer, like you would in a corporation. Maybe some of you in your jobs as teachers or in business or whatever have done something similar. And basically what we wanted to do is learn about ourselves, the way we react to people, the way we respond to things, and how other people do. And just because I react this way or I think this way is not necessarily the best or the worst of somebody else. And so it was really a way of broadening our minds to realize that working with people, as we've all learned in our lives so far, is very rewarding and at times can be challenging. And so then we decided that we wanted to share that with our docent community. So we talked with the docents about it and shared our thinking, and with that came up the idea, why don't we, now that we're a larger organization, why don't we formalize it a little bit in terms of what our expectations are when we come here to work? Because we're volunteers now. We're not here because we have to be here for work. We're here because for a whole number of reasons. So we wanted to explore it with the whole docent community as to why we're here and how we would like to be treated. And of course, we're all experts on how we would like to be treated. You know, we all come with a whole bunch of different experiences with people. And so that was the genesis and the reason for why we started talking about shared values. And so we did come up with a document that talks about those things. And I wanted to kind of take you through the process a little bit so that you would understand it and it would be valuable to you as well. And then we'll talk about the document that we have and make sure that we all have agreement here as to these are the things when we come here, how, in a sense, why we're here, and how we want to be treated, how we will treat others. So the first question that we discussed, and we talked a little bit about it with interpretation as to what are your goals when you're dealing with the public. But I want to dig a little deeper into that. So we talked a lot about why do we volunteer here and what are our shared goals. And then to understand why we are here. So what I'd like to do now, which is part of the process that we did, is just for a couple minutes within your table, talk about specifically why you volunteer here. Okay, what is it that you want to get out of it? And now, not just your goals, but the shared goals of working together. Okay, I'm going to give you just a couple minutes. If you turn to your table and talk. I know it's early. I hope you've had your coffee. Can I have your attention, please? One last time. Can I have your attention, please? Thank you. Glad to see you. I hope you were talking about this. And yes. Good, good. So what I'd like to ask is somebody at the table, could you just summarize? You know, it's kind of an active listening thing. If one of you at each table would want to just kind of summarize what were some of the things that people were talking about when they were saying why they want to come and volunteer here. Yes, thank you.
Okay, in my group, we kind of have the same ideas, like why we're here. And one is because we love nature very much. Another is that we want to work with kids and be a good example for them. So have to love nature, respect nature. And what else? We love the wild animals, the birds, the sound of the water, just, just to see, to be a good example how to appreciate what we have.
Mm-hmm.
Kinda.
So it's, as I heard you saying, it's a strong love of nature and a desire to spread that, especially to children, so that they understand and appreciate it. Another table? Yes.
Similarly, me and Willie, who've known each other for 50 years,
Oh, that's fun.
we were talking about our first memories, and I remember like 3 or 4 years old before the LA River was paved, walking in the LA River catching tadpoles and frogs and stepping in tar and everything. And then Willie was talking about his early days in Mississippi, and I think we both want today's kids in the city. I don't think they experience what
No.
we did back in the day, and we'd sure like to maybe instill some of this natural love of nature with the kids. So. You did it. Okay.
And giving them the same opportunities or similar opportunities that you had.
Yeah, you said it better.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I think it's true that when you come here, if you have good childhood memories of nature, it just is a feel-good place.
Yes.
You know, you feel good when you're here. Other tables would like to share? Yeah.
Okay. So again, it was like just leaning on like the love for nature, but then also wanting to, I guess, identify with something else other than like what I do for work, because yeah, just nature.
So it's enriching your life with other things than what your normal everyday life.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's an important thing. It's a sign of mental health too, to keep yourself balanced in that way. Other people? Yes.
I think we also, I think the love of nature is just,
Yeah.
if we didn't like nature, none of us would be here. I think it's also about creating a lasting community that will care and nurture nature and kind of just continue the cycle and to empower young people to feel like they can do it.
Mm-hmm. You're certainly uniquely placed to do that, being a docent here. I mean, you have lots of opportunities to do that. Even if we don't have school tours now, there still are opportunities to work with the public, the open house, those kinds of things. So it's the right place to be, to do those things. Anybody else have? Yeah.
Well, I didn't say anything earlier because the first table covered it exactly. But we also talked about just being here, being in nature, feeling very much at peace, and a sort of like groundedness, be able to hear everything and see nature and wilderness untouched, and just the desire to share that with other people too, and be able to like bring them here and show them what it's like.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a opportunity that isn't as broadly available as it used to be. You know, so we really want to take advantage of these resources. Yeah.
And that's really what we talked about. One of the things that we really look forward to is being a positive, being able to positively contribute to the community by supporting this so that they can come and enjoy the nature center.
Mm-hmm. And I think this idea of community is really important. Not only being a member of a community, but doing something to improve or to enhance that community feeling, to create a community. You know, I know for me, when I moved here after overseas for 25 years, I had my son who lives in LA, and old friends that I lost touch with when I was a graduate student at UCLA, but I had no community. And I really longed for that, and this was the place. Within a month and a half, I found this place, and it became my community. So, yes?
Debbie and I were talking mostly about our relationship with Scouting, Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, and how it kind of segued into teaching kids about nature.
Yeah. Yeah, and this room is so packed full with talents and abilities, you know, from life experiences. And that's why it's such a rich environment, and we can do so many wonderful things because of that. Anybody else from any other table? Yeah. A group?
This is a treasure here. I started coming here with my parents. We brought our 5 boys here when we were just young ones. As we grew older, our friends, we had a group of friends, we'd come in here for picnics, hikes. As we had children, we'd bring our children for the animal presentations. And now they have grandchildren. I brought my own grandchildren. So coming back here is a continuation of that whole familial thing. Like I said, it's a treasure here that I like to see other people enjoy, other children enjoy. And then they'll start all over again with their own families.
And isn't that a great legacy? I mean, this place is really generational. You know, it was new for me, but for so many people as yourself. You start out as a child, and then you bring in your children and grandchildren. And that adds such a depth to this place, I think, to the park. Anything else that anybody would want to share? Okay, well, in our document, we had 2 parts. The first one is we volunteer at PCN, the Placerita Canyon Nature Center, 2. And the things that we came up with are exactly the same in many respects as what you were just talking about. So in the document, it reads, we volunteer to educate and learn, to make friends and be part of a community, to preserve, protect, and improve Placerita Canyon Nature Center, and to have fun. And I think what all of you were saying, either sharing or in your conversations, this really covers it. Is there anything else in here that you think needs to be added? Or does this satisfy you as an explanation of why we're here, why we volunteer?
Probably
Yeah.
ethically treat animals in an ethical way.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of, like when I photograph, I make sure that I always ethically treat animals the right way.
Uh-huh.
Like, for instance, when I see an animal, I don't make sounds that attract it because it can take them away from their hunting skills. It can harm them. It could make them affected by a predator. So like you're just calm and quiet, and you're patient, and you just listen to the animals around you, but you don't ethically hurt them in any way. Even when you think it's not hurting them, you are hurting them. So, yeah.
And that's a really good thing to instill in children, because kids come here thinking animals are pets oftentimes. Can I touch it? Can I take it home? Where can I get one of those? You know? And I think that maybe in the preserve and the protect, it's there. It's not as specific as what you're saying, but it probably is covered in that. Yes?
I would add inspire, as in educate, inspire, and learn.
To the first one, right?
Yes.
Okay. What I'll do is these changes I'll bring up at our next board meeting. And so we want it to be what we call a living document, not something that's just posted on the wall that people walk past all the time, but a living document that really means something to all of us. Okay, so that, oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Also under improve, to note changes, like if someone noticed some big tree that had fallen that wasn't like that before or something, or if there was some other changes that got vandalized or something. I mean, that would be protecting too.
Yeah, and that's really important. Sometimes people notice things and they don't know who to talk to. Tell Russ, tell Frank. Sometimes, I remember there was this big fad where people would paint rocks and put them all over the park. And every time I was hiking, I was picking up a couple rocks. It was some kind of game, was something.
It was an advertisement.
Yeah. So I would just pick them up, I told them about it, and we would just toss them away. So this is our park. Pick up litter, all of those things, and if you see graffiti, let them know. Broken, anything broken, park benches, things like that. Yeah, yes?
This may come under your A community statement there, but I've also been curious about the collaboration. I know Sandra is part of the Sierra Club and Nature Wilderness Society. I suspect that many of others are involved in a lot of other organizations. That hasn't quite come out yet. And so I think there's a larger community that you are already a part of that inform what we do here. So I was a little curious about whether the community there, in your minds, meant the group of people in only PCNC or the broader community out there, the Nature Conservancy. There's a lot of people out there that are trying to do this type of.
Well, one thing you'll see is with our open house, we have about maybe 8 to 10 vendors, the Sierra Club being one of them, hiking groups, reptile groups, rock club. On our open house day, they all come and they have tables. And so it's their opportunity to share with our community other opportunities. I mean, I found out about the rock club and I was a member for a couple years. So there's a real exchange between us and the broader community.
Do we do things together? I mean, do you have co-branded or co-activities?
It depends. With the Sierra Club, Sandra is organizing a hike for people that are sight impaired. And she's organizing it here. So we have groups at Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, they come. We have sometimes special programs for them. We had a Boy Scout troop there at the open house last year. So there is a lot of cross-pollination.
So it comes under your community statement there?
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Monica.
Under the idea of reporting things, please take pictures. We need to see where the stuff is so we can send it to get work orders so the stuff can be taken care of. So if people just walk in and say, oh yeah, somewhere up the trail this is happening, well, it's 1.75 miles, so we need to know where, and if you can get it to scale so we can see how big whatever the issue is, things like that, and then bring those into either me or Renee, then we can put in work orders to get things repaired. Because a lot of times stuff will have been up there and something happens after we leave. So we don't know what did it.
Yeah.
So it helps us to get stuff fixed quicker.
That's a good point for us to remember. Sometimes just telling another person isn't as helpful as helping them to locate or find that area. So
the easiest way to get a scale is take a picture of yourself or take a picture with somebody else, So you just lean on the tree and be like, oh. It's this big.
Yeah, you need to know if you just bring a shovel or if you bring a land mover.
I could move it myself.
Yeah.
And what I was saying about the ethical treatment of animals, like some kids, they'll chase the birds, or, I mean, it's good to like instill in them and kind of tell them that you have to give the animals their space, that not to go out, not to chase after them, or that's really, they need to be taught that, because like you can go, like I'll go to the beach and I'll see the little kids running after the seagulls, and that's like not good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And those are all things that when you give school hikes or you're a docent here, you can intercede sometimes. I know kids climbing on trees, that's one thing that is a little bit of my bugaboo, because the bark and everything can, especially with fires coming. And so it's not a playground, it's a park. Yeah, Barb.
I think working off of Jamie's, it's the respect. I mean, teaching kids how to respect nature. I mean, which is part of preserve and protect, but actually respecting the animals, respecting the rocks, and all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that's how we model things. If we're on a hike around here and we pass some litter and we just walk past it, what does that say? Somebody else's job? Or I don't care, I'm not going to touch that.
One of my favorite signs on any location is leave no trace.
Yeah.
Pick up after yourself.
Yeah.
some people are even better and pick up other people's stuff, but at least pick up after yourself, you know, that's the only.
I get a feeling there's a strong teaching or modeling desire here, which is so much needed right now. So don't be afraid in a gentle, kind, non-judgmental way to intercede when you might see things like that happening. Yes?
I mean, one of the things that I find kind of fascinating is people will bring plastic bags to pick up their dog poop and then leave the plastic bags on the side of the trail. That's not quite the point.
Some people put it on the side and have the intention of coming back. And some people do not.
Yeah.
I come back because I go up and back. But,
I don't even have a dog, and I can't tell you how many times I picked up other bags of
OPP, I don't
dog's
pick up
poop.
other
And
people's poop, sorry.
I have a glove, so I
I
do.
have my limitations.
Anything else on this in terms of why we want to volunteer here? And I will bring up the idea of inspire, educate, and learn. Okay? So this is the first part of our document. And then we came to our second part of our document is how do we work together to achieve our goals? Because we're a community, and what we do affects other people in the community. And so in order to achieve our goals, we need to create an environment where we feel safe and comfortable and valued. And, it's idealistic to think that there aren't going to be a little snags here and there because people might approach it differently than you, or have a different priority than you do. Or maybe they just are having a bad day. And that happens to all of us. So we then went on to explore what are the qualities in others that make us feel good, valued, respected, and what are the qualities that we can cultivate in ourselves to be able to encourage those around us to have those same feelings of safety and value and respect. So what I'd like again now is to go in your groups and talk about how you'd like to be treated and how you would like to treat others so that we can all work together to do all those things that we just talked about. Okay? Everybody clear on what to talk about? Okay, please turn and talk with your tables. Attention, please. Can I have your attention, please? Thank you. That was faster. We're getting better at this. So let's do our same procedure. Is tables, if one person would be so kind as to summarize what the discussions were about how we want to be treated and how we feel we should be treating others. What are the qualities? Yes?
So one of the things the first thing that came to mind was treating each other with respect in hopes of being treated with respect. And we also discussed what to do when there's conflict. And I said to step away for a little bit and then come back and reevaluate and address what happened and then move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and we don't always know what's motivating the other person or persons when we have a conflict with them or ourselves. Others? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I could see.
because he has to.
So Jim brought up a really good point about just getting to know one another and finding out what everyone's.
Sorry, I'm not hearing you with the noise. I want to hear what you said. Okay, could you start again, please?
Yeah, it was Jim's point. He said just getting to know one another and finding out whose interests lie where, because everybody has different interests, and kind of figuring out where people work best or who to go to for certain questions.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm. And do you guys feel so far that your knowledge of who's who and where to go is starting to build? It's not so confusing and overwhelming?
Yes.
Good, good. Okay, and it'll continue to become, we'll become more familiar with each other. It's a really good point, yes.
Yeah, so Beth and I also talked about the mutual respect thing, but she had this fabulous list that was, so start with assuming good intentions, don't assume the worst, be curious, listen to learn, focus on common ground instead of other things, and then also listening to and respecting other people's beliefs doesn't need to threaten your own beliefs type of thing.
Yeah. Because we want a lot of ideas, don't we? We want this to be a dynamic place with people doing multiple different things. And yes?
I think our discussion went along the lines of how you work together, the strategy of working together may be a function of the goals. And both of us come from, I come from a corporate, you work for state services, and we were talking about how the strategic plan and the ways you work in those environments are much different. And so learning how to define your goals, first of all. One thing, it's been hard to tell for personally, about the specifics of our goals. I see that you want to educate, you want to react to kids. Very different than making a quarterly financial plan or
you can't
producing
assess
so
it.
many students or things of this nature.
It's not quantifiable.
Right.
Yeah.
So that having a non-quantified goal means that you have to be quick on your feet. You got to be observant. We've heard often that you guys say a lot, hey, you'll do fine, you'll figure it out type of thing, which implies that, you got to kind of be watching and react to the inevitable complexities of what you will encounter. So maybe observant, figuring out is the two kind of values that we thought were coming out. Did I say okay?
Yeah, what he said, perfect.
Yes?
Well, we talked a lot about mutual respect is very important, but we also talked about how friendliness is a really big component too, because we are all here because we want to be here. And so just kind of cultivating a friendly environment and good vibes so that everyone wants to keep coming back and wants to keep working together. Just like a little bit of a step further to even the mutual respect is, being very kind, I guess.
Yeah, kindness is an important thing. Friendliness. Yeah, Helen?
I'd like to apply that shared values when you're on a hike, because sometimes you're leading a hike and you have parent chaperones and they're, coming up from, the back, but they're chatty, and it's like our shared goal should be that we are all there for the purpose of learning. How do you apply that when you have the chatty parents who are there just because, and if anything, it's a distraction?
I've also, being a teacher and a principal, I've dealt with a lot of chatty parents, and besides here. And I find that it's just in again, neutral, not annoyed, non-judgmental way. Just say, hey, moms, you want to come and join us?
Right, you want to involve them then?
Yes, and then if it continues, you might wait a little longer. Okay, I'm going to wait till everybody is listening, and they think they're not part of everybody. And so the kids are all listening, waiting, and the moms are chatting, and I'm just kind of nicely looking at the moms saying, you're part of everybody. So there are ways to guide them in. Another thing is photographs. Everything their kid does every step they take on the hike, they want to take a photograph, which really intrudes. But those are in the minority. Yeah, Renee.
I was having a conversation with Mojave over here. That is something great, because there's been occasions where I've taught a few classes, and there was one teacher who probably the smartest person I've ever met in my life. A lot of the students really didn't like him, but I thought his way of teaching was excellent, So one of the things that he taught me, and I use throughout my entire life whenever I'm teaching a class or I always let everybody know. Or sometimes when I'm gonna present somebody to give a class, please give them the respect that you want to receive, because eventually you're gonna be up here doing this, and you want the same respect. So, let's say, for example, you're teaching a class, and I start talking over here, and so what he told me is this: you stop talking, look at them, have their conversation, everybody looks at them, and then they're all gonna be like, oh, what's going on? No, we're gonna wait till you're done. Apparently your conversation is way more important than what I'm teaching up here, you know? And I mean, it always depends on who it's with, you know, because like, I was with teens and young adults, and I was like, maybe that's a little too, I was like, we're all here for the same reason. You brought your kids here to learn, they're not learning because they're over here listening to your conversation.
Yeah.
A
Yes.
little bit along the lines was, is one of your tactics, Cindy, to ahead of time try to get everybody's attention and kind of say, hey, this is the way we want to do this, so that you set the rules down, here's what we're going to do, and everybody, parents and children, are all part of this. And so all your involvement. Have you tried that before? So you set the rules out, so nobody's.
Yes. I think it kind of comes down to patience. You know, that they're not going to, people don't just snap to your will. And you show a certain patience, and if it takes 2 minutes to finally get everybody's attention, then it's 2 minutes. And people want to cooperate in general. Yeah, Dave.
Sometimes in your group, this doesn't happen with the teachers, but it happens with parents, that you'll ask the kids questions and have them raise their hand and so they can respond to it. Parents will just blurt the answer out right away. So you really need to just have a conversation with them, tell them, it's really for the kids, I want to see what they know if they learn. But you'll run into a parent like that.
I want to steer this back, though, to how we treat each other. Okay? Because, yes, there are annoyances out there when we work with the public. But now we're pretty much talking about how I interact with you or how you interact with me as we're going about doing what we're doing. Yeah, Linda.
That's where I was going to go as far as achieving our goals, is camaraderie among docents. And sometimes we work with each other, but we don't really know each other. And so we need to engage in conversations among each other to learn about each other. And a lot of times there's groups that gravitate towards each other, and they do things outside of being a docent. You know, maybe they go somewhere to a museum or something, and that's just all part of working together, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're talking a little bit about inclusivity, that you see that you'd like to get involved in a certain activity, but you haven't been invited, and oftentimes there aren't invitations. People just kind of, like the bees in the hive, you just kind of all get together with a shared interest, and so feelings might get hurt. But I've rarely seen where somebody would say, hey, I would really like to go to this, or can I help you with that, where they're snubbed. And that was one of the reasons why we wanted to set this up too, is that feeling of being included in things, especially since every year we're welcoming a whole new group of docents, and we want you to find your way. So I would recommend that if you see something that you would like to do, even though you might be shy or be afraid, and we're hoping that somebody would include you or invite you in, it isn't always the normal way, because so many things are going on. And if you're not invited or included, don't take it initially as an exclusion. Just step forward and say, I'd like to help with that. I'd like to be involved in that. Whether it's things that are happening within Placerita, and Linda is right, we do have some offshoots of activities that where like-minded people are interested in certain things. And if you hear about those and you would like to get involved, find out who you can approach and talk with them about it. Yeah.
Just one point, I don't want to going through this, but I heard Dennis mention, and you come from a corporate environment. We've had several people come from corporate environments. Jim, the other Jim, our former president, Jim Southwell. And Jim Southwell used to get very frustrated because he ran a big division in an aerospace company, and he's used to tell somebody like, you know, Jim, you do this, you know, Glenda, you do this, Mark, you do this, and it wouldn't happen. And what is going on here? You know, you do what, I'm the president, you know, you do what I tell you. And that doesn't work here. And Cindy's going to touch on this when she talks about collaboration.
Yeah,
but you know what I found out to get things done around here? Has anybody ever been on jury duty here? Yeah. You know, on jury duty, you really have to collaborate with people. Because I've been on juries where when I, new jury, it's like, you know, that guy's guilty. Jim, you're crazy. That guy's guilty. And the other person is just, oh, innocent. You know, it's that kind of thing. She's going to touch on it, but that corporate thing, because we've had several people here that come from, you know, the corporate environment, and it's a little bit different here, unfortunately.
Well, let me respond a little bit. That is that the corporate thing we brought up in our conversation, not necessarily as kind of the means of a hierarchy and different decision making, but it also was the clarity of goals.
If I can just, because you mentioned strategic planning, and we did that for 2 or 3 years, and we had a list of I don't know how many pages, and we worked step by step. So that was already covered, and that's one of the things that we figure out what goal we wanted to work into.
Yeah, that's something I was going to mention. Thank you for bringing that up, Evelyn. Yeah, we had a strategic plan. I went more than 2 or 3. It went probably, 5, 6, maybe longer. Yeah. Because we had certain goals we wanted to achieve, and we did it. We had clarity of goals. We had a monthly review, and it's called the strategic plan, and I see if I can dig up a copy. But, you know, it kind of, we accomplished the goals, and we put it aside, and we haven't done it again. But that's something, Dennis, maybe you want to pick up again. I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Oh, I still have my projects.
Be careful what you say. Well,
it's a very specific goal, isn't it?
Ron just did a great segue that I just wanted to explain something that we sometimes as volunteers with multiple ideas but no hierarchy or specific structure of authority, we get lost and confused. And that's the idea of the difference between collaboration and cooperation. So I just want to take a moment here because I noticed myself when I first came here, this was kind of a flashpoint as to what, when there might be certain conflicts. So the model that we're working on is this idea of collaboration is the planning. Okay, I'll give you an example of the open house. Right now we are collaborating. We're going to have a series of meetings. It's decentralized, where if somebody says, okay, I want to take care of activities at the Walker cabin, they're going to do it. But if somebody says, well, I want to just do butter churn. So people step forward, and we're collaborating. We're getting some new ideas now. We're communicating. We're agreeing on a plan, whether it's a plan just for the open house or it's a strategic plan that goes for a few years. And we're sharing ideas to achieve a common goal. That's the process we're doing now. It could be with even the smallest of things. Okay, we want to organize a hike. So people get together that are interested and they plan. And then out of that collaboration comes a plan. Then the next thing is then we are implementing the plan. And this is where cooperation comes in. Now you signed up to do something and you show up. We've got the plan that we've collaborated on. Maybe you have collaborated on it. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you've just shown up. And all of a sudden you see, oh, I got an idea. Why are they doing it that way? I think we should do it that way. And then you go up to the person and say, you know, why are we doing it this way? We should do it that way. And that person begins to feel like, well, where were you when we were discussing the plan? Can you please now just help us? Not that if you come up with an immediate idea that's great and we can be flexible about it, but there was this friction that was caused because as volunteers, there's a lot of time put into this. And then when people show up and want to cooperate, you want to do a good job, you haven't experienced all the other reasons as to why we're doing it this way. And so then there's some friction, and then there's some grumbling. Well, I don't understand why they're doing it that way. I told her that I thought it would be better, but she didn't want to do it. And, you know, you've all had experiences like that. So then the planners start thinking, whoa, I'm not going to do this anymore. Why should I put myself out and organize all this when people come and they want to do it their own way and they're criticizing me because it's not. And this has happened here. I'm sure it's happened to you as well. But when somebody shows up and says, okay, what do you want me to do? Show me what you want. And then you follow through on it. And if you have an idea and say, well, you know, maybe you've thought of this already, but maybe we should try this. And it might not be something they thought about. So then it's presented in a respectful way. If the person says, no, we talked about that, but we thought this might be a better way this time. Go with it. And then we don't have these them versus us kind of situations. Because if you can think in terms of the collaboration comes first, the sharing of ideas, and then the cooperation comes where now we implement those ideas. And if there's confusion about how to do it, because sometimes people just aren't told, well, I thought I was doing it the way and so be sure you're clear, ask questions about it, offer suggestions in a respectful way. And we found that once we clarified the collaboration and the cooperation, a lot of these things just dissolved. And when you come in, to cooperate, you're respecting all of the work that has gone into it thus far. You're respecting the history. When you offer ideas, maybe you've already thought of this. Maybe you've already done it before, but have you thought of this? Because then there are people that have been here for years and years who have tried all kinds of things. And I know when I first came, I was like a vomit of ideas. And I rubbed a few people the wrong way. And I was a principal. So I was used to having people do as I expected them to do, my faculty. I had to tone it down a lot. I had to change my speed in doing things. And I had to realize and honor, because people would say, oh, we tried that, but it didn't work. And I'd get frustrated, because I'd say, well, maybe the time wasn't right then. Maybe it's right now. So I'd say, okay, I get that, but would you be willing to try again? Maybe if we did it this way or that way. That's the respect. And it's insidious, and it's constantly being aware of that, because we all love nature, we're all passionate, we're all enthusiastic, we all have our priorities. So if you could just keep in mind the collaboration and the cooperation. What are we doing now? It's not like there's a definite line. There is a little bit with the open house because there are so many moving parts. And you change this and then this. In simpler things, it's not so much of an issue. Yeah?
So as far as the collaboration events, I've been obviously there's a lot of senior docents that have been participating in this training process. Has been very good, being able to get to know them. I suspect there's a lot more out there. They said there's 80 to 100 on the rolls. But when this training is done, are there other events that can draw attention so that people could have the opportunity, and they know that I could be here Tuesday at 9 o'clock, and there's going to be a lot of people here that I'll get to know?
You know, I would suggest you get involved in the open house. That's May 8th. You'll be graduated and fully docented then. Or, I'm sorry, May 13th.
My daughter's getting married, so.
Oh, okay. You're excused. But there will be a lot of opportunities. But remember, we're volunteers. We have other life outside. And if you send an email and within 24 hours it's not responded to, please make sure, don't think, oh, that person doesn't like me, or, whatever. We're all volunteers, so we get to things as we get to things, and sometimes you need to be a little bit more persistent. People do things in different manners. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So I know I had to change my expectations working with volunteers versus being in my work environment. It was very different. So, and just talk a lot to people and ask about it, and if it doesn't happen really quickly, then just keep talking and finding your way. We do have for new ideas, we do have it's being now put into a docent opportunity group. But we got together out of frustration thinking, if I have a good idea, what I think is a good idea, how do I implement it? I can talk to people, but just if you say, hey, you know what, you should do this, and then you walk away thinking, okay, I did my responsibility, because there are a core of us who really facilitate a lot of things. And we kind of want, if you have a good idea, run with it, go with it. You know, just because you told me. And so we have a form that you can fill out that talks about if you need a budget, how many people you need, a description of the project, and we would meet and help you with that. Say, well, this was done this way before, and we did that with the library. We did that with about 5 or 6 different projects. It really worked. And then we help you, and you take it to the board, and you explain what you want. Well, I need $1,000 to do this. I would really like to develop a reading corner for children. So I might need $500 to buy some books and some pillows. We'd probably do it every Sunday afternoon. We need about 2 or 3 docents to initially start with this. And then we help you, and then we present it to the board, and the board would say, yeah, we like this idea. We will allocate you the funds. Go with it. Okay, so we will have maybe I'll put some forms in the library. You can contact me and I'll email me and I'll send you a form. And that's the formalized process. Otherwise, it was kind of like, you know, banging around, bumping here, bumping here, bumping here, and it never really got done. Okay?
Just want to say one
Yes.
thing. Isn't that how Nature Tots originated? I mean,
Yes.
Andrew Donner had this idea, and she
Yes.
put together this
Same
whole-
with nature boxes.
and the nature boxes, and now they're
Yes.
regular programs.
Know Your Nature Center started with, we know there's going to be a grant from Santa Clarita. All interested parties come. We had about maybe 10 docents come. We all talked about what kind of projects we thought we'd want to do. And then we voted on all of those. There was a list of 7 different projects. And then we voted on the ones that we thought would really work, given the thing. And Know Your Nature Center was the one that was voted on. So then I carried it and got a grant. But a lot of it was just self-done and asking people how to do these things, because we're volunteers. Nobody is the authority really on anything here. And so it's messy. And my hope is that you'll feel comfortable in the mess of everything, because it's very creative. Yeah.
Well, you know, one of the largest examples of that, I think, is like right here and in the Interpretive Center. We might as well have called that Hodgepodge Lodge a couple of years ago. And we spent a tremendous amount of time, and Ron was deeply involved in it, collaborating and cooperation of what they were going to put in that room, how it was going to be designed, and so on and so forth. And then it was built, you know, by a professional company we are brought in here that builds museums. But anyway, this whole process, this building, was exactly what's up here, and it worked out, I think, pretty good. You know, we have a lot better place now.
Yeah, Ken.
So I was a member of the most recent docent class, 2020. We haven't had any until now. And I know the feeling of being the newbie, right? Because I was the newbie. And I, like Cindy, was pretty frustrated that, you know, newbies come up with new ideas and we get shot down immediately. Seemed like. And that's not exactly what's happening, but that's how it seems. So I learned as a college faculty member that there are 3 qualities that will help in collaboration situations. And that's patience, persistence, and positive attitude. And if you can apply those 3 things in these situations, you'll be frustrated initially maybe, but it'll get better. It got better for me. Sounds
Yeah,
like it got
that's-
better for Cindy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you may just want to kind of find out what's going on and coast along for a while too. That's perfectly fine. Find your niche.
Going to what Cindy said about the person coming into something that was already planned and set, and that person wasn't there to plan it, right? Or like, oh, maybe this is a better way, this is the approach about it. Like Cindy said, sometimes we'll be flexible. You know what, that could work. Or, well, you weren't here then, we already planned, we already spent all this money and all these things for this, so we can't just put all of that aside and go with it. But thank you, it is a great idea. Maybe next year we could try it your way, just don't miss, so we could plan it. And a positive attitude, because if you come with an approach where it was like, well, that's, using strong words, and it's like, well, now you're just attacking, it's just like, oh, I thought so, but.
Yeah, Barb.
And I was wondering, after your events, do you have a debrief so that you're doing an evaluation of the processes and all of that, so that if something didn't go well, what you could do to change it, and maybe that would be a way that if somebody comes in, wanting to do it their way, you can always say, well, at the end, we're going to evaluate how we did, how the program went, maybe next time. So
I think it's
including an evaluation.
I think that's a really good point. And with our open house, we did that. We met a couple weeks after the open house, and I believe there were 9. There was the food truck. Do we have one? There was parking wasn't so good. There was recycling. There was the time. A whole list of things where people had fresh in their head suggestions as to how to improve it next year. And at our first meeting, that's exactly what we did. We went down the list of those suggestions, and it's really important because now we can work from experience again. And we're always changing and improving, and they're always good ideas. That's what we want. We don't want to squelch ideas. But it's a good point. And if you are in a committee and that doesn't happen, you might want to suggest that. Sometimes committees don't have heads. Sometimes they do have a kind of temporary leader, but nobody here is an authority figure that can rain down on you what should or shouldn't happen.
Yeah. If you do have an idea, write it down, because you will forget about it. I remember when Russ first told me about the open house last year, I had an idea and I brought it up to him, and I never presented it to the docents, and it didn't happen.
It won't, yeah.
Yeah, so I did it was my fault because I didn't present it to the docents. I just told Russ, and he was like, oh yeah, go ahead and talk to so-and-so. And unfortunately, when my schedule wasn't working, like on the days that most of the docents would be here, my schedule was Sunday through Thursday, and most of the docents here, when there isn't class, are here on Saturdays, and that was, like I said, write it down, and eventually you could communicate it and present it to somebody, and, hopefully it takes into consideration, or, depending on what it is. But.
And I want to say that I know we're not telling you anything you don't already know. We're just kind of putting it in a form for you. We're just kind of reminding, we're just kind of all together having an agreement on it. Because we've all worked, we've all had success in our own areas, and so we know these things. So any questions about, any more comments or anything about collaboration and cooperation?
Yeah, ask one thing, it's very specific, and that is, I know we're all volunteers, it's gonna be tough, people get married, whatever. Does anybody coordinate that a or some docents will be here on a particular day? I've been here a few times hiking, and I looked around. I didn't necessarily see. I saw Frank and saw some other folks. I didn't see one of us.
We used to before COVID. So keep in mind that we are reorganizing after COVID. People would be here for nature boxes. Some people would come to want to do hikes. We did have other activities. And with COVID, it all fell apart. And so though we've really got a good momentum going, and there is an online sign-up if you want to work in the interpretive center, that hasn't caught on yet. So that's part of it. And if you feel a need, you can try and think of ways to begin to organize that so that people, but we did have for nature boxes. Dave was organizing that. We still did that for a while. Hikes, other kinds of things.
Yeah, I want to just, because
Ron?
we had another question, somebody else, I think David asked about that. We do have this online sign-up system for what we call museum docents or interpretive center docents. And we had it for a few years, and as Cindy said, COVID, it all fell apart, so we reestablished it. And so far, nobody's been using it, so we're going to kind of press it again. The woman that set it up, she unfortunately couldn't be here to explain the system, but I'll put it out in the next email so you guys can see what it is. And then there is a system when we get the school tours going again, a system to sign up for that. You'll get an email and then you'll sign up. So yeah, we do have sign-up systems, but as Cindy said, it kind of went astray.
Yeah,
during
we're rebuilding.
Thank you.
It took me 8 months to know this many people. I'm not lying. I only knew Glenda, Teresa, Jim, and Jack. 8 months, and then with time, I met Cindy, I met Rob, I met Danny, Dave, and everybody else. I mean, it was just like Cindy said. It was COVID was that bad.
And you're here every day, right?
So, yeah, this class has helped everybody.
Cindy?
Yes.
Can you or Glenda put out when the next meeting of the open house planning is? Because I'd like to attend.
Read your trails and nuggets, because
March 22.
It's March 22nd at 10 o'clock here. And if you want to get involved, you must read your trails and nuggets. You're all getting them now. Because people say, well, I didn't know. When did that happen? And I know they get buried. Maybe they're in your spam. Figure it out. But read your trails and nuggets. Even if the heading doesn't seem like it's something interesting or would affect you, read it, because that's our only major way of communication. And for those who read it, they show up and things happen. Okay, anything else before we move on?
It comes from Mom of Parents.
Yeah.
It comes from what?
Mom of Parents.
Yeah, yeah. Please read them. Oops, what did I do?
Went too far. Back up. Use the top button.
Okay. So to get back to what we're going to do to each other, how we're going to treat each other, how we want to be treated, we had our goals, and now how are we going to achieve our goals? And this is what we came up with, is this list. I just want to read them. Therefore, to the best of my ability, I will be respectful. You'll hear so many of the words: kind, dependable, collaborative in planning, cooperative in implementation, open-minded and non-judgmental, generous with time and talent, inclusive, and trustworthy and honest. I think this is an amazing list that all the docents came up with that helps remind us. And so we expect to be treated this way, and people sitting in front of you, behind you, next to you, expect you to treat them that way as well. And if we can all, certainly there are hiccups, certainly we're having a bad day, we don't feel good, we're worried about somebody in our family, we're a little annoyed because something didn't go right. We all are bringing our lives into this place. So what one of the docents said, which I think is really important, is assume good intentions. Don't automatically assume if somebody was abrupt with you or dismissive or didn't respond the way you wanted to, that they don't like you or that they're a bad person. Again, we all know this stuff. But I think if we make it clear and we put it out there that we all heard this, we all understand that, then it helps with expectations. And certainly if there is some conflict that you may run into, I've been here 5 years and there have been a few with me as well, and I may have been to blame or not, but I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But go to the person first. You know, don't try not to be a campaigner to get people on your side. You know, you see that happen a lot. You know, he said this to me, and you know what he said to me, and would you, I was just, you try and you campaign so that you can build yourself up, and then you go, well, a lot of people said that you were. And it's human nature. It's human nature. We've all had those things. But go to that person and talk with them. And I have never had a situation that couldn't be resolved in one way or another where everybody felt okay about it. And they're very, very few. People sometimes come to Ron with issues. They come to Evelyn with issues. Once in a while they'll come to me. And our general reaction is, have you talked to the person about it? And then if you do need help at some point, then we can talk with you about it to whoever. Anything you would like to add to this list besides the inspire in the first part?
Observant comes to mind.
Patient.
Empathetic, type of see what's going on from the other side before you. That's part of
Would open-minded and non-judgmental, would it kind of cover that? But it's true, you don't want to just go guns blazing. But I think part of being open-minded is stepping back and listening first versus making a decision immediately.
I don't know if they'll fit here, but I mean, enjoy what you're doing.
Well, these are kind of qualities versus emotions or feeling. The first part says it. Let me show you the whole thing. So this is the whole shebang. We volunteer at Placer Canyon Nature Center we're going to suggest inspire, educate, and learn, make friends and be part of the community, preserve, protect, and improve, and have fun. Therefore, to the best of my ability, I will be these things. Now, I have it here. I didn't want to pass it out first because I wanted us to explore it a bit. And then some of the docents felt that it would be important to have examples of what this behavior looks like. Some felt they needed it, some felt they didn't. So on the front is the shared values, and on the back are examples of specifically to the Nature Center, what that would look like if you were respectful or kind, dependable, those kinds. And you can read those yourself. I'm sure you can all come up with examples on your own of how these things would look. Any comments or questions or things you would like to add to this? I love this photograph of the ants. How everybody's clinging on to each other to get to the other side. And sometimes that's what we're doing. We're clinging on to each other to get on the other side. Whether it's something here that we're doing, sometimes it's personal, where we're helping each other through difficult situations. You're going to create those kinds of friendships here that are more long-lasting, if you so want them to have those, where we help each other in multiple ways. Evelyn.
You may have heard sometime that we consider the Placerita as a family. So you entering a family unit, and this has always been one of my goals. That's what I try to do with the trail and Nugget was also one thing, and the Rattler, and that's why we put an interview in every Rattler to try to, so that we know each other a little bit more, and it is up to you to decide that you're going to be part of the family. If you want, it is there. And you reach out, you have people there that are ready to really love you and give you support. And care about you if you get sick or whatever, but you have to make the step forward. That's it.
And there are people here that are still working, they have families or whatever, and as much as they'd love to put more time into it, they can't. They have other responsibilities as well. That's fine. There's no guilt out, you should blame, whatever. You're here when you can be here, except for the dependable, that if you do say you're going to do something, that was kind of a bugaboo of some people, where, yeah, he said he was going to show up or he was going to do this, and I asked him a couple times, But again, we're volunteers, right? And life happens. So if you do put forward that you're going to do something and you can't, whatever, there's no harm in saying, I'm sorry, I thought I could do it, but I just can't right now. Enough. Yeah? That's it for me then. Again, we welcome all of you.